Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is September 29th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient Article 3. Moorish American Al-Moroccan court action. We are the sovereign living justice in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. I am sovereign living justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light to Jury Bay. Both are in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith, our trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco. We are the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are the de jure ancient Washington District for Colombia. We are the universal Moorish American Consulate and the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are executing the law by our sovereign capacity, which is the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3 Living United States District 4 Columbia Court, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, receivers, secured creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, claimants, and beneficiaries in this cause for action. We are peace, we are one nation, we are one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension. We issue a state and federal creditors' bill for possession against all judgment debtors and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. So generally in our congressional assemblies, we like to point out little facts about realizations that we're coming to as we continue this grand rising and this great awakening. And one of the realizations that I came to recently was the fact that when we were in those church settings, that the tithe envelopes in church were in red ink. So for those who grew up in the church setting, the Christian church setting like I did, we didn't realize at the time what that red ink really meant, but we know now that the red ink is the creditors. So, and again, we're not mad at Christianity or Christians. We love Christians. We love Christianity. We actually created Christianity. And that is a part of our estate as well. Okay. So, but I just wanted to point that out for several reasons. On our last call, we spoke about sacrificing the tithes and offerings. And we talked about that because this is harvest time. And tithes and offerings does not mean what we thought it meant. It doesn't mean fiat Federal Reserve debt notes. In fact, tithes and offering is actually something that's coming to us, not going out. So when we talked about it, we talked about all that we have done, all that we've been through, the study, us coming together, and we labeled all of this the sacrifices, the tithes and offering. Our tithes and offering is not Federal Reserve debt notes because debt is not what we want to reap. Okay? So our sacrifices have been in demonstrations by fire. It's been testing. It's been, Moors being tested in so many different ways. And I'm sure that there's not a single Moor on this call who does not have a testament about how you were tested. That sacrifice of allowing yourselves to be tested and not running from the testing is tithes and offering toward the nation. And then in return for that, for allowing yourselves to be tested while you stand, and we've all done it, that's what we do. We've allowed ourselves to be tested into our greatness. And the greatness is the reaping of all that we have been tested through. The testing has always come by way of commercial actions. It's been fake courts are commercial actions, evictions are commercial actions, foreclosure actions, attempted evictions and attempted foreclosures, which that's not really a thing. That's not the law, not for us, not on this landmass. And our standing, our ability to stand in the face of that is the tithes and the offering and the sacrifice that we've been putting forth. And now it's reaping time, it's harvest time. So we've learned to save ourselves in the face of this testing. We've learned to save ourselves, and we're learning to save ourselves. And while we're learning to save ourselves, the ancestors are protecting us. They're keeping us safe. Yes, some of it is traumatic for some of us. Some of it is, scary sometimes. We know that. That's why it's called testing. Testing is for the great ones to do. Okay, it's not for cowards. It's not for scaredy cats. It's for the greatness. Will we be scared sometimes when we know that testing is coming? Sure. And testing never comes without us knowing first that it's on the way. Testing, our ancestors, they will never test us and not tell us first that a test is coming. Okay? Everyone who's been tested knew that some test was coming. Some got scared about it. No need to, because we're going to stand anyway. We've always known that we're going to stand through this testing. And some have done everything to move away and not have to deal with testing, not knowing that testing is coming regardless. It's coming for everyone. Testing is not a scary thing. All it is just like a test in school. When we were in the POW camps, testing would come, and we knew a test was coming, and sometimes they called it a pop quiz. Either way, what you knew and what you stated determined how you did on the test. What we're doing now is always studying so that when tests come, it won't even feel like a test. It'll just feel like you filled out something that you already know about. Okay? So that's what testing is all about. And some get angry at being tested. Don't get angry at being tested. Because even those who don't know who they are, testing is coming to them too. And they're feeling like they're backed into a corner and have no recourse, no remedy, no way out, nothing. Okay? We actually have the way out, the remedy. That's why testing happens. And so we have originated mountains and mountains of affidavits and documents, which we will always do in terms of writing the law, because we are the lawmakers and law enforcers, okay, among many other demonstrations. So what is the next phase of this grand rising? We know that the Bibliotheliothek is a legal code book, so sometimes you can look in the Bibliotheliothek and you can see what's going on. Some call it the Bible. It is an ancient writing when in its original form. We wrote the original Bibliotheliothek. So the next phase, it says this in 1 Samuel 15:22 in the ancient writings. It says, obedience is better than sacrifice. Well, the proper translation, because that's a mistranslation. It's a mistranslation. We don't obey. We are the bay. And that's where the mistranslation came in at. Being the law is better than sacrificing. We don't have to keep sacrificing and doing without when we become and just be the law. We already are the law. Okay? So when the subjects and the foreigners were doing their translation of the Biblios Heliotech, whenever you see the word obey in the Biblios Heliotech, it was really saying be the bay. Be the bay. Okay? The bay is the law enforcer. And we all have, whether you say you're El, Bay, Al, Ali, Day, you're the bay by bloodline and birthright still. We're all of that, all of the titles of nobility or titles for nobility. And so being the law is better than sacrificing. You know, we will not ever have to go through what we've been through when we get that in our spirit to be who we really are on the landmass. Okay? The Bibles that we have been shown are translations for the subjects and by the subjects. And that's why a lot of times when we heard people giving their interpretation of it, it didn't even set well with us. It did not ring true. It didn't hit our true center. In fact, it hit the fault, it hit something that said that's not right. Because we know we're not under anything or anyone. Okay? And so with a few minor corrections in the wording and the language, the Spirit is then added to the words to make them more applicable for us. But only we can add the Spirit to the words as stated in the scripture, the letter killeth, but the Spirit maketh alive. Okay? Why is being the law better than sacrificing for your family? Because, see, some people feel like they, I have to do these sacrifices for my family. I have to do these sacrifices for my children. Well, being the living law cannot be manipulated by feelings and beliefs like sacrificing can. See, when we were asleep, and this is the precursor to speaking about our estate and our autograph and how that autograph settles the claims and how we use that and who we are in order to continue to move forward and enlarge our territory. We have to know who we are first and know that we don't have to sacrifice anymore. We are to be the law, period. And so that whole sacrifice piece was being manipulated by every entity out there. So someone would say, well, in order for you to get this quote unquote blessing, you have to give your all. You have to give this and you have to give that and you have to give the other in order for you to get this. Well, in our living state, which is who we are, that is turned backwards. It's because that was upside down in the first place. Okay. In this living state, when we are the law, all that we need or thought we needed and thought we wanted comes to us. All that we can think or imagine will come to us. It's already here, really. It's just a matter of us doing what we're doing now in order to open our minds to receive it. The estate is already in receivership. The estate is already in being ministered to us. We have to do it, though. No one else can do that. So anytime you hear Moors saying that someone else out there needs to give them something because they gave them documents and things like that, they don't have anything to give you. We actually just state that, yes, we have this. Because if you'll notice, the domiciles haven't gone anywhere. The land hasn't gone anywhere. Nothing has gone anywhere. Everything is still here. It's just a matter of proper proclaiming of all that belongs to us. And so Sacrifice, that whole term indicates a deficit. That sacrifice mentality says that something's missing, and you have to put that something missing in there in order to receive that which is yours. And that's true to a degree, but it's not fiat, Federal Reserve debt notes at all. In fact, it is your status, your standing, and your knowledge, what you know. Okay. Many have given their last penny to someone who did not need it in the name of sacrificial giving in order to get a windfall of quote-unquote money in return. That's not how this works. That is not how this works, okay? That actually worked for a few who did it, but for the other 99%, it didn't even work, okay? And why didn't it work? Because the energy behind the sacrifice was not the right energy anyway. So what we're doing right now, our energy during each of our times for sacrifice and testing, as we're being tested, okay, when we keep our energy clear, that sacrifice becomes a pure sacrifice. And with that sacrifice becoming a pure sacrifice, instead of, there's some energy behind the sacrifices sometimes that's maybe a sense of entitlement, where we just think, well, I'm an heir, so when I say I'm an heir, everything should just stop. Well, it should, but you have to state that you are an heir competently. And so that has to do with the energy behind the demonstrations. A sense of entitlement or a sense of, frustration or war energy or anything of that nature, those energies should be cleared before you even do a demonstration, okay? So the outcome that each one of us sees is a direct result of what we know and what we remember. We know that our demonstrations, what you know about demonstrating will determine whether you see that your demonstration even worked or not. Some people will look at a demonstration. For example, we did a POW demonstration last year in 2021, which was actually 1441. Some people would look at that demonstration and say, well, you went to the POW camp, so that's not successful. It actually was successful. That was the test. Would I stand and still be who I am regardless? Would I not go to their fake courts? I would not go to their fake courts. Instead, I did court actions right where I stood, and they could not hold me. That was the test. But some would look at that as something that, because they can't see yet, some would look at that as a test that did not work. But it absolutely did, because guess what? Nothing that they said after that could I be held to. And I couldn't be held to it before then. But nothing they said after that. And we're going to show you that today, too. I'm going to show you just a clip of something that I came across in my study that proves that they have nothing, absolutely zero, on us when we stand. And it's a direct result of that same POW demonstration that I did. So, again, that POW demonstration was tithes and offering. That was offering and tithes all day, every day. Okay? And so all of our demonstrations were successful. Every demonstration that you ever done was successful. Every one of them was successful. But you need to recognize the success of your demonstration. Being the law is the key to seeing the truth. The truth is that we all prosper because we are the law. Okay? So even in the Biblioteleotech, it says, I will bless them that bless the ancient Moorish heirs, and I will curse those who attempt to curse the ancient Moorish heirs. That's what it says in the ancient writings. And so when we even bless ourselves by study and demonstrating, and then bless one another by assisting one another. And when we say the word blessed, it means what we say, okay? So look in the Biblios Heliotech, and you can Google the scripture that says, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. And know that when you Google that, and you look in the Biblios Heliotech for that scripture, it's going to say, it's going to be from the subjects, from those who wrote its perspective. And all they did was look at what we wrote in the ancient writings, and they said, okay, let's make this applicable for us because the Moors are going to be asleep. So we don't want them to know that this is talking about them. So that's the answer to the question in the chat. Where does it say that? Go ahead and Google the scripture in the Biblios Heliotech that says, I will bless them that bless you, and I will curse them that curse you. Okay. So now, what does all of this have to do with our signatures and our trust and how we move and how we get the things that we are that belong to us? Islam in the chat, thank you for putting that there. Genesis 12:3. That's talking about us. That's not talking about anybody but us. And that is another reason why even in our sleep, you know, the sleep was kind of tough for us, but we're still here. We're still here. We could not be done away with. Even in our sleep, no one could get rid of all the Moors and let it only be foreign matter on the earth. Because they know the law. That's the ancient law. There's no getting rid of. The Moors didn't disappear off the scene. We're here. We've been here the whole time. Yes, and that's the rest of the scripture. It says, and all peoples, not persons, but peoples on earth will be blessed through you. They have to come through the Moors, and everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. So now, because everyone has to come through the Moors, let's talk about our autographs, and accepting the property that's on our land for the value. Okay. So let's say, for example, we did a conveyance demonstration that will mature on October the 1st. So in our sleep, we would go to, you know, if we wanted a conveyance, and a conveyance is an automobile for those who are not familiar with the terminology that we use. When we would want to get a new automobile, a conveyance, we would go to the dealer and we would give them an application. Application. What does the word application even mean? It means whatever is on here, whoever we give it to, can apply it to your ledger. That's why we don't fill out applications. We do affidavits. We allowed others to apply our monetary value that we signed for to their ledger. And then they owned the contract. And when they owned the contract, they would do with it, add whatever fees, and do whatever they wanted to do with it. Okay, and because we did not do an affidavit for whatever that is, we didn't accept it for value. We did not autograph and say, we accept your payment for this item. Then they would apply a bunch of stuff, and they would even double and triple book by saying, put a down payment. A down payment is triple booking, not just double booking, it's triple booking. Because that creates an entirely different contract because we were using their fake money when we didn't have to. And so in our sleep, when an application was received by an auto dealership, and there are some more who are dealing with this right now, where they have either leased, quote unquote, or purchased a conveyance, and they're being treated like garbage over that. And there are many who are dealing with that, and they spent what they thought was a bunch of fiat, and they feel like they should be treated better than that. But the people at the dealership, the persons at the dealership already know who we are. And they know that we're not, that when we come and fill out an application and don't come with any affidavits, that we're not competent to even own that. We're not competent to own it. If we don't state who we really are, we're coming in fraud. And fraud is not a good thing to come in. That's not a good mask when we're pretending to be citizens and customers. Customer is the opposite of custody. Okay? So if you come as a customer, that means you're admitting that you don't have custody of anything, and they're not going to give you custody of it. You will hold it for a minute, and then they'll come and take it back. Okay? We must stand and be the creditors that we are. We are the creditors to all nations. Okay? So now, the application, what would they do with the application? How did they monetize the application? How did they apply it to their ledger? The way they applied it to their ledger is that the application was bundled with other applications, and in many cases with the heirs, they didn't even have to bundle them because it only took one. They would take that application and they would say, okay, this heir has not taken control of their status, so we're going to do it. They would take the application and send it to a warehouse. What is the warehouse? The warehouse is a rating agency that would rate the application. And who would do that? Whoever it was that was pretending to finance that application. So in some cases, it would be Mercedes Financing, or it would be General Motors Acceptance Corporation, GMAC. Think about that, Moors. General Motors Acceptance Corporation is what GMAC is. That word acceptance means they were accepting for value what we should have been accepting for value. All of those finance companies just interloped and said, okay, the Moors don't know that they're supposed to be creating receipts for this and accepting it for value instead of giving payments and money and fiat. They don't know that, so we'll do it for them until they wake up. That's why it's called General Motors Acceptance Corporation. And the original General Motors Acceptance Corporation is us. But we needed to know that. So these Mercedes Finance and General Motors Acceptance Corporation and all of these acceptance corporations, because that's what they all are or were, they would take the application and send it to Fitch's or Moody's or some rating agency, and these rating agencies would rate the stock marketability or financial viability of the application contract, and they would say, okay, this is a Moorish American national, but they don't know it, so we can get more for this one. For this, we can put this one on the stock market and we can create more derivatives because this is a creditor who doesn't know they're the creditor. So if you want to know how corporations got so big and so earthwide and the CEOs got so wealthy, now you know. It was because you signed and did not know that you needed to accept for value and create a receipt and say, okay, this is paid for. See, they knew it was paid for right away. They also knew they could double book if you gave them a down payment and say, okay, this is a separate one. So we've created a financial relationship where they think they're the debtor. And because they think they're the debtor and they've given us this fiat payment, we'll just go ahead and smack the market value onto this account and make them pay every month because they don't know they're the creditor. They don't know that we've taken the application that they filled out and we already sent that on to Fitch's and Moody's and it's headed to the stock market. Why? Because it's already paid for. Even having it go on to the stock market paid for it yet again. Any fiat that they made from the applications going to the stock market paid for the conveyance again. That's why I say triple booking. Because even the application itself, without the double booking, would already be paid for with the autograph. Why? Because they were in debt to you in the first place. So remember the process that we've been showing you and discussing together where we know they're the debtor and we say, okay, you're the debtor. We accept this product for value because that product was made from our vast estate. It originated at our vast estate and you're the debtor and we're the creditor. So we will accept that for value. Okay, that's what the signature was for. So whenever we use our signature, our autograph, all we're saying is we accept this for value. It's paid for already because they're debtors. And in every exchange, there's going to be a creditor and a debtor. You need to know who you are in all exchanges. When you're the creditor, you don't have to pull out any fiat. You don't. And here's the thing about the trust. Us, all of us, doing this together, all of us knowing that our autograph is the real credit, when we all come together and unify like we're doing, and we all state that this is how we're going to move forth, that is the trust. It's another manifestation of the trust. We have put we've put the proclamations of trust on the public record. We've already done that. Okay? And so what we want to do is all of us together continue to agree that this is how we're going to do things because it's the way it's supposed to be done. Our autograph is supposed to get us whatever we want on our land. Our autograph is supposed to do that. But we have to know that they're debtors when we go there. See, we think that because the conveyances are on the lot and they're on and the persons are on the lot, that the conveyances belong to the persons. It's the other way around. The conveyances belong to us. They were custodians. And they know this. It's in the language in all of the contracts. So here's how we use that. The way that we use that is any contract, and this is for those who have already signed quote unquote loan documents and all of that. This is what we suggest you do because this is how it's supposed to be done and it's actually the law. Because you know now that you're the creditor, that paperwork that you signed you need to recreate that paperwork. Put your flags, the government, our flags and stamps and seals on it, and hand it back as a receipt. Just call it a receipt, a trustee receipt, a fiduciary receipt. But you have to recreate it the same way, and you thank them. Here's the receipt. Thank you for your payment, because that means it's paid for. And the part that we missed in all of this is that we didn't give receipts. We must give autographed receipts. I went out earlier and I purchased some things, a cup of coffee, a little something for my heiress. This is just things to eat, And the ancestor said, and I went to the grocery store and I got gas. The ancestor said, look at the receipt. Look at them. Compare them. I compared them, and they don't even call them receipts. They don't even call them receipts. They call them checks. Here's one right here. And I don't know if you all can see this. You may or may not be able to see it. But it says right there, check closed. Check, when you give someone a check, they're supposed to give you a receipt for what you purchased, aren't they? Yeah, they are. When you go to a restaurant, what do you say to the waiter or the waitress? You say, can I have the check, please? And then you sign something. Okay? In fact, let me, I'll scan this in so you all can see where it says check on here. Because this is, we have to realize that they've been giving checks and we've not been giving a receipt saying this check, we accept this check, this payment. So here, let me hook up my, just one moment. Let me. See, they have actually been what they were supposed to do, which is provide the check, the payment. They've been doing that. We've not been providing receipts saying we accept this check. So I'm letting my scanner so that I can scan these receipts so you can look at them. So all we need to do is get used to printing receipts. We really actually need to make up our own receipt books and just everywhere we go issue a receipt for anything that's given. That's really what we should have been doing, except we actually let our paperwork precede us. And that way, when we do things proactively, it's more organized and more in alignment with the way that our ancestors did things, including our travel and everything. We should have been, there's a reason why when you go online and let's say you order a plane ticket, there's a reason why they give you a complete and total rundown of the cost. Not so that you were not supposed to be paying for it right then. You were actually supposed to be printing that out and issuing a receipt and then sending the receipt ahead of your travel with your documentation of who you are. That's really how we were supposed to be doing everything. It's the same way that we did it when we were, when we all thought we were government employees, quote unquote. It's like operating a government expense account. And the way we did it was we knew where we were going well in advance. Even when I was in the Air Force, in the military, we knew ahead of time where we were going. So we had to do all of our expense reports and everything, book our travel, and make sure that the travel was paid for before we even walked out the door. That is actually the way that government does business. They got that from us. Just one moment. Let me scan this in real quick. Okay, my scanner's ready. So we all need to get into the habit of knowing that everything is already prepaid. We just have to accept it. Okay, just accept it. And that almost sounds like a command. Accept it. Just accept it. Accept who we are and then accept the things that belong to us. You know, you can't tell sovereigns what to do. But we do need to go ahead and accept the things that belong to us. Just one moment. Let's see. Okay, can you see the receipt on the screen where it says check closed? It's not a receipt. It's not a receipt. It's a check. It's a check. And here's the thing that I was listen, so now remember when the quote unquote IRS would say save all your receipts and then turn them in after a certain period of time? We were actually supposed to be claiming all of that credit. We were supposed to be sending in the receipts to these checks. You provide the check and then you provide a receipt. You see? And we've not been doing that, heirs. We've not been doing that. Yes, we've not been doing that. And I see some things in the chat, itemized deductions, all of that. Except for us, the entire amount was supposed to be coming back to us, not just, quote unquote, the tax on the bill. No, because we're not taxed. Period. And any amount on our, of anyone trying to charge us anything. No, because that came from our vast estate. Everything. So, how do we proceed with this? And we will open the floor. We will open the table here shortly. I just wanted to show you first what we've been doing and what we need to do to remedy what's been happening. Okay, because again, all Moors. It says it right there. Check, check, check. Closed. And then there was another one here on this. This is another one. This is a Safeway one right here. Look right here, Moors. It says U.S. debit. U.S. debit. Why do you think it says U.S. debit? Debt. Debit and debt is the same thing. They're claiming their debt. That's why it says U.S. debit. Okay? So, and then it says here, verified by PIN approved. All that's saying is we approved and accepted for value that product, but we didn't give a receipt. So then what it said down at the bottom, I think it said down at the bottom, yeah, they don't even call this a receipt. They don't call any of these a receipt. None of this is a receipt. You don't see the word receipt on any of these. Check closed. And then it even talks about drawer. Who's the drawer? Drawer 1. Just one moment. Yeah, this doesn't even say receipt because it's not a receipt. We actually have to create the receipt. Okay, so now it's a debt for the United States Corporation Company. That's why it says that. There it is right there, U.S. debit, right there. It's their debt, not ours. So we have to start claiming that. Let me open. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, Empress Rama said, the one who received the service creates the receipt. Yes. Yeah. Yes. The one giving the service is the debtor. The one giving, that's the debtor. So let me put the meeting. Okay. I'm looking at what's in the chat. This is some great stuff in the chat. It says receipt or receptio. Receipt and receivership is the same thing. The one that's providing the receipts, their estate, they are receiving their estate. That means the estate is in receivership. That means they're receiving the estate. So we have to provide the receipt that says we received this of a third person to plead his right in a cause formally commenced between two others. That's good. That's good. See, there was a third-party interloper in there that was doing the receiving for us. But now, nunc pro tunc, we can go back as far back as birth, and we can receive all that is due us. So the best way to even start this process, let's see, there is an invoice number. An invoice is an itemized list of goods shipped or services rendered. Yes, yes, that is correct. Just one moment. So, someone has their line. Oh, okay. There it is. So, I'm looking at what's in the chat. It says, yes. So, an invoice. Any invoice can be reprinted or recreated by us and turned into a receipt. And that is actually what we should be doing. These are invoices. A check is an invoice, but it's, do you accept this? That's what they're saying is, do you accept this? And we said we accept it, but now we have to go back and say, okay, here's the receipt for that. So, you know, we accept the service. And that credit is then given back because they still have to pay for it. We received it, but they haven't paid for it. That's what makes them debtors. You see? So, they're not receiving the estate. The one who gives the service, is the debtor. The one who receives the service is the receiver, who should create the receipt. Okay? Okay? So who the one who receives the service should be giving the receipt. To the debtors. When they give you a cup of coffee, let's just use that as an example. When they give you a cup of coffee, they're giving you a cup of coffee that you already own. They're in debt because they were bankrupt in the first place. And because we're the creditors to that, we need to issue a receipt so that we can claim the credit for that cup of coffee. Or whatever it is, conveyance, domicile, whatever it is. Bankrupt can't really, all they can do is work. See, when they first came over here, they came over here knowing that they were debtors, and they would, in the Bible, they talked about how, Boaz had to work a certain number of years just to get the heir, get with Ruth. They had to work. They had to work a certain number of years before they could gain their quote-unquote freedom. They came here debtors, and we've never made them pay. In fact, we got right on in there with them and started acting like debtors ourselves. And many of them said, okay, the Moors don't want to receive this stuff, we'll receive it. General Motors Acceptance Corporation will accept it. Acceptance and receiving, those go together. If you receive it, then you need to accept it. Provide a receipt that says we accept this payment. Similar to the receipt we received when we requested the birth certificate in the flesh. Similar to that, yes. There are comments in the chat. If you all could, who are putting comments in the chat, if you could expand on your comments just a little bit, because some of the Moors reading them may not quite understand exactly what you're stating. Just a moment. Just one moment. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's muted. So are we clear on what to do moving forward in terms of accessing our estate? We need to start issuing receipts, Moors. We need to do that. Any itemized list needs a receipt issued. With each, in other words, recreate the itemized list, call it a trustee receipt or a fiduciary receipt, and then issue that. Don't issue fiat. That's just my suggestion. Don't issue fiat, but you have to know not to contract in fiat. Don't start the contract in fiat. Okay? And if there's a contract that you started in fiat, recreate that contract, call it a trustee receipt, and send it. Because you paid for it already. You just need to issue a receipt. Or they paid for it already, rather. That's what your signature does. Your signature says, I'm the creditor, and I accept the payment that you made for this domicile that I'm going to be domiciling in. All we hired them to do, heirs, was to have custody until we come. That's all we did. We said, you have custody until we come, and when we provide a receipt for that, you just give it. You don't have custody anymore. And that goes for anything, any buildings, any domiciles, any conveyances, any products, anything. It doesn't even matter what it is, because that's the trust that we have in each other as the creditors, where we all agree that, okay, that's where they'll be. That was our agreement with each other. We said they came over, they're debtors, they came here, they want to work. Okay, this is what we'll have them do. Now that they've done that, they will know to give, in other words, to release custody of something or someone when proper statement is made and a receipt is given. And when I say someone, more should not be held as surety. More should not be held in any way possible as surety. And you won't be when you state that you're the creditor. Because, see, that's a creditor-debtor situation, too. If you act like a debtor, they're going to treat you like a debtor and keep you in debtor's prison until you prove that you're the creditor. We've had to do that from start to finish. Now, let me show you what happened when we did that. Just recently, I went on, I was on YouTube looking around, and I came across a video done by a court jester, one of the court jesters, and it was from 11 months ago or a year ago. It was actually, they did the video like about a year or a year and a half ago. They actually did it right around the time that we did our POW demonstration. And what happened was they were doing a video and they were showing all of the documents that the frauds had supposedly presumed and attempted to put on the record about that whole, the POW demonstration that I did. And they showed some things, and so I said, well, let me just look and see what they did with their corpse, because that's their corpse, that's not me. And when I went to look to see what they did with their corpse, this is what I saw. This is what they put. Just one moment, let me put it on the screen. This is what they put, what they have on their corpse. It says here, right here at the top, person detail. Person detail. And this is what it says. This is their corpse. This is not me. This is their corpse. This record can no longer be tracked through Vine. Contact the last known facility for information. Registration disabled. Ethnicity unknown, etc., etc. Now, this is their corpse. This is not me. I listened to what the subject was saying, the court jester was saying about how all of that turned out. And after that, they went silent. There's no other videos that they put up after. They put a few more videos after that one, and then they went silent like almost a year ago. Okay, so we already know what that's all about. But there were no further updates on that after that. So that basically that essentially to me is further proof of what we've been saying about being ourselves. When we're ourselves, they don't own our person. We own our person. They created a false person. We have to prove that that person that they created is not us. And that's easy to do. Nationality documents, a termination of corporate contracts, a proclamation of trust, a lien on that person, and then a fiduciary document stating that all persons belong to this living state and that we're alive and we're not dead persons. We're not persons at all, but persons, we own persons. And our persons are natural persons. Period. But see, this is the result that you're looking at on the screen is the result of doing court actions, our court doing court actions on lower courts and inferior courts and fake courts. And we actually did it on a fake court, and then we had the lower courts, the inferior courts, to enforce it. And by being ourselves, they could no longer do anything else. That's how powerful our courts are. That's how powerful our courts are. And then what we did was we've shown you how we said, okay, our natural person that we own is protected. Our natural person that we own is protected because they're not the state. Those other people are, the frauds are not the government. That's how you keep yourself from being held as surety for something that is not you. And then they have to do that right there. There's no status on that because our court already ruled. So why would there be a status? There didn't need to be a dismissal on their part. Dismissal for what? Our court took care of that already on the public record. So for Moors who think that there are war rants out for you, or you think that you have to go to a fake court, no, you are the court. Be the court. Be the court. You are the law. And see, here's the thing. Courts are banks. And this is another part of your trust and your autograph being the real. Okay? So, any fake court, any corporate court should always be put under your dominion and properly stated that they're subjects and that they don't have any authority over you. Because that's the real estate. See, we have to protect ourselves first. When we protect ourselves first by stating who we are, our nationality is everything, I'm just saying. Our nationality is everything. That is the start of all benefits, all wealth, everything is our nationality. Because it is the foundation for everything else that's coming, that's here already. Access to the estate belongs to the heirs. It's our proper statement of ourselves that gives our signature or our autograph its power and authority. Proper statement of ourselves as the law, and we're the government, we're the courts, and all of that. And our authority is endogenous. It is within us. It grows and manifests and comes from within us. So, you all have known the story of how they came to the door 3 weeks in a row in 2018. You know the stories. Our ancestors said, you get over that first. You take dominion over that type of energy first. Then you can access the estate freely, because you don't have to worry about someone trying to come and take it from you based on false identity. That's the way to get to the next level. That is our trust. That is how we use our autograph to get access to the estate. Access to the estate is granted by us for us. Even where debt is concerned. If you live in an apartment and someone is saying to you that you have rent due and you know you don't have fiat to do that, we suggest that you take the lease agreement, retype that whole thing up, putting you as the creditor though. Retype the whole thing up, put you as the creditor, and you autograph it and say, this is a trustee fiduciary receipt for the entire thing. Islam.
I just wanted to say a few things real quick. Basically, as you were talking about earlier with the credit applications, right?
Mm-hmm.
How they were sending them off to be rated, and they were doing the acceptance for value. I'm gonna put it in the chat real quick, but in the Security and Exchange Commission's office, there's a office called the Office of Credit Ratings, and they're the ones that are supposed to be overseeing those agencies that give the fraudulent rating. So it's just another place that we could send our documents to, just to put them on notice that we're going to be the ones doing the acceptance for value and that everything is already prepaid, and you could just fax it directly to them. But another thing that I want to bring up again that I put in the chat earlier was that the word purchase.
They're saying your volume is low.
Oh, okay. Give me 1 second. Is that better?
A little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that the purchase order is them already conceding that they owe you, because not only is more than likely when you ask for a purchase order, not only is someone a sales consultant from that corporation, not only are they going to sign it, they're going to sign it, they're going to sign it and then ask you to autograph it. You just have to claim that as debt that they already owe, and just tell them up front, this works out for you anyway, because you can show that you actually are a responsible debtor who can pay some of their debt. You see what I'm saying? Because once you autograph it, your credit application, that can go on the debt side of the ledger, and your credit application can go on the credit side of the ledger, and it cancels out. And they end up being able to show that, yeah, we paid some of our debt to the Moors, you see what I'm saying, or to the national government or whatever.
So if they were competent, I would do that. But they're not competent. They're not competent.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Do that.
saying. Once you
Yeah.
put them in their proper status with the lien and all the other supporting documents that you're going to be coming with anyway,
Okay. Yeah.
You already did your lien. You've already
Yeah.
showed that you proclaimed your nationality and that you are an heir. Once with that, then you can go ahead and do that demonstration and just have a simple accounting. You basically want to be the one that gives the instructions for the accounting and let them know ahead of time. There's not going to be a tax fee. There's not going to be a tag fee because we give our own tags, all that. And then you just basically do it that way. I think we should see some success with that.
Islam. Yeah, we have to state from the onset that we are the creditors, but even those who have gotten into contracts and things like that, just take that contract and recreate it and call it a trustee fiduciary receipt and autograph it in blue in capitis diminutio minima and send it and stamp it paid. You can stamp it paid and accept it for value. Because here's one thing we do know, just from looking around. We know that their money is no good. What they were calling money, fiat, is no good. We know that. But you can now look, and out there on the records, they're saying that their money is no good, that their fiat, quote unquote, is no good. Because it's not. Take a look at the British pound and what has happened in the last 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours there. The British pound, the Japanese yen, what else? It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And and know this. And someone put this on my social media. We knew that was coming because our Grand Sheik had already said that the stock market, quote unquote, was going to crash. It's already crashed. The new fiscal year starts October 1st. And that's why all that we're stating here is important. In the chat, there's a question, what if you are the landlord? If you're the landlord, there's got to be some quote-unquote mortgage company that's saying you owe them. So whoever it is that's saying you owe them, you actually need to, whatever contract that was created, you recreate that contract, stamp it paid and accept it for value, and send it to them so that you don't have to pay them. And then each of your tenants in there, just tell them you don't accept fiat anymore. So you're going to have to work out some form of payment. And that form of payment, in my opinion, now this is if I was a landlord and I knew that this was going on, it would be based on their status. What is their status? And if you don't know their status, then everyone is subject status until they state otherwise. Okay? And what do subjects do? Subjects are going to have to start, working the payment off or something. Because see, at some point, however they pay, you just tell them that they're going to be transferring credits. Don't accept Federal Reserve debt notes anymore. Like most of the vendors say, we don't accept that anymore. So you're going to have to use something electronic or something. Because see, with the electronic transfer of payments, because we've terminated all corporate contracts, all that comes in electronically, we can keep that. We can keep that and transfer those however we choose to transfer them. Those are sovereign credits when you've terminated all corporate contracts. So any ones and zeros that's coming in is sovereign credits. And we've been stating that all along. A bank account, well, we're the bank. So we should be collecting credits. We should be collecting the credits. And when Moors say, hey, I'm a Moorish American national, and they put it in writing the way that we know it's to be put in writing, and we just assist our brothers and sisters in that. You know, we just assist them so that they don't have to do that, so that they don't feel like they have to be under the fiat gun. Listen, it's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day. Everyone, and Moors that who thought you were tenants, you need to free yourselves. Create some receipts, trustee fiduciary receipts. And that's, again, like the noble was saying, a lien by court action, and all that. Those 6 documents need to be in place when you do that. With you, they need to be sent with your receipt. The fiduciary document, liens on everything and everyone. That needs to be the standard, because it is the standard, the national standard. That's the national standard. And because we've put it on the public record so often and so many Moors have done it, it's become the national standard all the way across the board on dealing with foreign debt, U.S. debt. They know it's their debt. That's why they're not saying these are receipts. No, it's not receipts. We create the receipts just like we create everything else. And so Islam, Empress.
Yeah, so I don't know if you recall, but I had shared the Wells Fargo check, and it occurred to me after a few revelations that they were showing me that they were supposed to be sending me checks.
Yes.
And so, you know, I have
to send them receipts.
Yes, yeah. And so, you know, I had done the whole issue stuff with my conveyance, had the title and everything, and I knew in my spirit it was mine, but they kept sending me, or the person, you know, the titles in the, not the title, but, you know, every, you know, piece of paper is a title, right? And so, okay, Des. Yeah, so, you know, in the mail, so I'm like, why are they still sending this? And then, you know, I went to sleep recently, or not to sleep. I rested. And then I had a dream, and the ancestors were telling me, I was hearing them say, she hasn't done the accepted for value. And so it's so funny that you're talking about that today, because I was like, oh my God, I was like in my dream.
Yeah.
And so I got up right away. It was this week. And I was like, okay, I got to research this accepted for value thing, you know. And so I was looking at, you know, those that were acting as sovereign citizens, you know. They were teaching us some stuff. Yeah. And so I saw that they, you know, were showing like, okay, when they have that payment coupon at the bottom, you know, what you need to do is write on that accepted for value. And they even had stamps and all this stuff that you could, you know, put on the payment coupon. And so it said accepted for value in honor, exempt from levy, as I wrote, as beneficiary, for my remedy, release of proceeds, products, accounts, and fixtures to me, sovereign heir and beneficiary. And you know, they already have the account number there. And so I know we want to do this, making sure that it's coming from our state. And so I wrote the Moorish National Republic, federal government, universal, original, indigenous, natural, divine affidavit at the top. All rise and stand. This is an Article 3 court action. And I remember us saying that, okay, we have to keep the first receipt since we created this. So I made a copy of it, you know, for this to be my trust receipt, and then they get the second copy for the double booking
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And so, yeah, I just want to say we're on point. And then, my guide's always taken an extra step with me is to really understand like what that means in our walk, in our spiritual walk. And I started getting these downloads about, me accepting other people, the value of other people, and accepting myself for where I am.
Yes.
And and so I started like working on that too. So like all of this is not just, words. It's like a real living, breathing walk. So I just wanted to share that, Islam.
Thank you for sharing that, Empress. Listen, everyone knows who we are. Everyone knows who we are. And so the information that those that were previously attempting to do business as sovereign citizens, which is not a thing, that does not exist. There's no such thing as a sovereign citizen. But they were acting to show us what we can do. That's why it doesn't work for them. Okay? It doesn't work for them because those are our rights and benefits. We actually have to do that. We actually have to do the receipts because the books are full on the debtor side, and they must, that whole justice, scales of justice piece, we've got to lift that side, the creditor side, up so that things balance. The earth needs to balance. It needs to balance. We must issue receipts, autographed receipts. So that is how we use our trust and our autographs to access our estate. Whether it be any piece of mail that you've ever seen, you can issue a receipt for that piece. Just whatever it is, and our receipts are just they don't look like this. Our receipts look like they're a whole document. Okay. And so it just needs to be, if someone gives you a check like this is a check, then you just put whatever is on here, look at it closely, and then put whatever is on here on your receipt. Okay? We could literally, even with the lien process, the liens say that they're all debtors, and then we can do an overarching receipt. But all law is specific, and so we're going to have to address each thing specifically. But those major documents need to be on the public record, and everyone needs to be notified. Everyone needs to be notified. Now, Islam, Empress.
Okay, you said put the autograph on there. What happened to the using the appellation?
Your autograph is whatever you say your autograph is. Autograph and appellation to me are the same.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Islam. Whenever I autograph something, I autograph it Pauline Denise Ritchie, because I know that my matriarch spoke that the day that I was born, and her words were sovereign just like her womb was sovereign that day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So just because there was an interloper at the end of the table, because see, don't let them scare you away from your sovereign, holy, sovereign-born appellation, because you were born with an appellation. Pauline Denise Ritchie is an appellation.
Okay. Gotcha.
Islam. We were all given appellations at birth, all of us, by our sovereign mother. I mean, it doesn't even make sense that her womb be sovereign, but her words not be sovereign. Okay. She was sovereign and has been and always will be. And all we're doing is invoking jurisdiction even for her, no pro-tunc, by autographing in our sovereign-born appellation. I am light to Jury Bay. That is my enforcement, my free chosen sovereign national appellation. Still, because I get to choose. We all get to choose. Islam. And then when I'm doing things, when I'm getting benefits on the vast estate, I get my benefits as in my sovereign-born appellation.
Okay.
Now, I want to show you something that I saw the other day. This is why black is not a thing, right here. I was looking in the dictionary, and I saw this word. Just a moment. Let me go back to where I saw this word, blacklist. Blacklist. It is a list of persons debarred from employment, credit, etc., or a list of persons to be punished. That's why we're not black. Because, see, we can argue about color all day. Because some people want to be black and proud. Okay, you want to be black and proud, but you might want to know what you're saying. There's no such thing as a Moore list of persons debarred from employment and credit and all of that. Blacks don't have credit. Blacks have debt. There it is right there in an 1828 Webster dictionary. So now, when you think about slavery and all of that, think about that. When you think about reparations, think about that. No blacks are getting reparations because that's a form of credit, and you can't have credit. Blacks get debt, not credit. So let that marinate in your spirit. Because, some people are saying that they don't identify with Moors and Moorish. Okay, that's fine, because you're sovereign. We can't stop you. But we're going to put the truth on the public record so that you know what you're saying, what you're really doing. And then when you get treated like trash, just know why. And Moors, when you're autographing things and you're autographing and sending out receipts, blacks can't do that. Only creditors can do that. Only Moors can do that. Only those with a nationality, a bloodline, and a birthright can do that. Blacks can't do it because they're blacklisted. Just saying, we're just a messenger. Just a messenger. That's why stating things properly on the public record and us unifying is so powerful, because we're no longer blacklisted. That's what, see, when we thought we were black, that whole punishment piece, I just showed you the result of that. If I had said that I was black, then City of Federal Way Corporation could have issued warrants and came and got me. But I'm not black, and they know it, and I know it. And they know I know. And I also know that they're black. Unless they're in subject status. And if they're in subject status, then there are some subjects. Period. Subjects are protected. Subjects are, let me be clear. Subjects have protection under the Constitution. That we gave them. So, you know, we love subjects. We love our subjects. We love them because they know how to get in subject status when we say it the right way. That's why we must state that properly. We must state it properly. And they say, you know, Black Lives Matter. Do they? If they don't have credit, they can't get employment. What are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? A black is a person, but it's a dead person. And when they use the word debarred, that word right there, debarred means that there's an attorney somewhere saying this, that this has been a court ruling because the bar has said that. There's a bar that was set. There's a bar that was set. That bar says, nope, y'all can't be employed and you can't have credit. So we will speak for you. We'll speak for you. That's kind of where subjects are. Is we actually have to speak for our subjects. They can't speak for themselves. Not where credit and all of that is. We're the creditors. Period. You know, so it is what it is. Now, by the grace of God, and who is God? God is us. By the grace of God, they can speak if they want to speak. You know, but we have to be ourselves. We just have to be ourselves more. So we just have to be ourselves, period. It's just there's no way around that. There's no way around it. And that's why we say what we say about, you know, when more say that, oh, they forced me to do this and get an attorney and they forced me out and all of this. No. They're black. They can't force anybody to do anything. They can't.
Islam.
They cannot force anybody to do anything. Islam.
What concerning the receipts, is there a particular video that you watched to get the inquiry to use Google Sheets, or can we hold a specific class or video to go over it to get the better understanding of how to do the Google Sheets, please?
There is a tutorial for that.
Is there one that you watched? If you could put under the
I didn't necessarily have to watch a tutorial, and I'm not being arrogant about that, because I knew Excel. I had taken Excel classes. Excel, you know, Microsoft Excel, and Google Sheets is a lot like Microsoft Excel. And so there's not any tutorial that I watched for Google Sheets. I just remembered all that I had learned in my sleep from Excel classes.
Okay.
So Empress, just go on to Google and put in Google Sheet tutorial.
I've even had the heirs assisting in that process, and specific things I haven't found yet, nor have they, because they're researchers. That there's certain things that I haven't found yet. So, like I know how to delete lines, but I don't know how to add lines on, because I see how you had the big space for the Mercedes Tacoma, and then underneath it you have lines again, and I don't know how to add those back once they've been, deleted or removed and things like that.
Okay.
Just appreciate love, some TLC of time.
Right click, and when you right click, it's going to offer you the option to add lines, delete cells, add rows, add columns. Just right click anywhere on the table, and for example, if you want to add a row under the first row, go to where you want to add the cell, and then right click, and it will say add cell, delete cell, add row, delete row, and then you can add them and delete them there.
Okay.
Gratitude. Right click is the key to that.
All right.
Yeah, because right click has a menu. That's where you can do that. And I may do something on that in the future, but a tutorial on an Excel tutorial will help you do that, because they work exactly the same. Excel and Google Sheets work the same.
Okay. Yeah, because the Google ones, they weren't as versed in all the details. So I'll look up the Excel ones.
Excel, just a basic Excel class will it will tell you that, and just go to Google Sheets and do the same thing, because they're identical actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Islam. And thank you for your openness about that, Empress, because we do need to know when we're putting things out there, how it's going, and if there's any way that we can better or further assist, with all that we're doing. Okay. Are there any other questions, comments, or anything of that nature with regard to anything that we've talked about today?
Islam, I was actually looking for that statement this week, the statement all law specific. Is that in the Circle 7?
That is actually a maxim of law.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where can I find that?
You can Google it.
Okay, I did Google all law specific. I didn't find it. So this all law specific maxim of law?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see. That is actually a constitutional. That is inferred in the Constitution.
Okay.
Okay. The Constitution assigned to Congress responsibility for organizing the executive and judicial branches, raising revenue, they say declaring war, we say declaring peace, and making all laws necessary for executing these powers. All laws, all law is specific, or all legislation is specific. That's what codes and statutes come from. So you can say that that's inferred even in the fact that codes and statutes exist. And then we are to make those codes and statutes. It's a principle of law that all law is specific. It's a principle of law. And that's why codes and statutes are so important. The public law is a code-driven law that we have to state properly on the public record. And the fact that the public laws and codes and statutes even exist, including the United States codes, the USC codes, anything that's not the Constitution or the treaty is specifying what we need to put on the public record and make it the law. And that is also the reason for the different levels of courts where inferior courts are concerned. Inferior courts are more specific, whereas our Supreme Court and our court is specific too, because our court can be whatever we want it to be. But that was the purpose of the Constitution, stating that inferior courts from time to time can be put forth, for things that are more specific, but they have to be based in the supreme law for the land.
Okay, Islam. Thank you. I didn't get it like that. I just loved when you said it, and I was like, I really should know what this means. So, thank you. I appreciate it. And that really goes back to Article 6, where it says anything to the contrary notwithstanding.
You got that really quick.
Yes.
Because I was actually going to say that, but I said, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Boy, your third eye pops open quick.
Islam. Yours as well. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, Islam. That was fast. Yes, and Empress Rima, she put that law governs all events. Yes, it does. It does. I'm looking at this part about the blacks and the blacklist, and the blacklist definition speaks directly to commerce. It's talking about commerce first. Persons being debarred from commerce. We were literally debarred from commerce. We really were. In our sleep, we really were. And some can say, well, no, because, I had my own business and I did this and that. That wasn't even real commerce, because they could tax the crap out of you, first of all, and they can shut you down when they get ready. Or they could have shut you down when they got ready. Like they did when, quote unquote, COVID came through and shut all that commerce down. Every corpse or corporation shut down at least 3 days straight during that whole thing, because they had to, in order to get on their knees and worship and bow to the master. Now, some may not see it that way, and that's okay. You don't have to, but that's what that was. And I will say this, even the churches, you prove who your God is by who you obey. And if the Bible says, and it does, it says don't fail to assemble yourselves together, and you stop assembling yourself together, then who is your God really? I'm just saying. And again, we love the Christians. We love Christianity. We have, kin in our clan who are Christians. We love them. That's why we're here, because we love everybody. Islam, Empress Nabi. If you're speaking, we can't hear you. You may want to star 6, Empress.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Islam.
Okay. Islam. Okay, I texted earlier today, and I wanted to find out some information regarding clarity with the UCC, because I want to make sure I'm trying to finish up everything. Mm-hmm. I did the other process through the state. So when I captured that, and put it on the lien, do I just need to lien those cause numbers, or do I need to lien the state? Do I need to go up the ladder and lien everybody, the state, the Secretary of State and all of that, or just the number?
What is your spirit telling you to do? What do you feel you should do? What is the spirit saying to you?
I don't like to leave any open doors.
The reason that I find that very it's funny is because whenever the Spirit is telling us to do something and it's a little bit extensive, we tend to question it, but it's because we know that it should be perfect the way that we do things. So, Empress, let the Spirit lead you on that. Because here's the thing: if you don't close those doors, your spirit is not going to be comfortable.
Islam.
Yeah, I know that feeling, and I've just learned to yield to it. I've just learned to yield to it and go ahead and perfect it and lean everything moving and get it over with, because that way I can say that demonstration is complete.
Yeah. Look, now I'm thinking about actually doing separately, and I was going to ask you about this. Do a separate lien for just me and my heirs and my domus, my family, and then everything else as far as, commercial and everything else, do that as a separate lien as well.
Yes, Empress.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. And you, I'm happy to affirm what you already knew. I'm happy to affirm that, Islam. And anyone else who needs me to affirm what you already know in your spirit, which is all we're doing anyway. You all already know all of this. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom?
Islam.
Islam and Prashasha.
Dasha. I wanted to share an experience which I had a couple of days ago, and in fact touches on what you talked about when you mentioned all lawyers specific, which you had said to me in particular. I had said I had done the termination of all corporate contracts, but I hadn't broken it down into individuals, and that was something I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of days ago, I was at the food store where I buy fruit and veg.
Mm-hmm.
And the custodians, policy enforcers came along. And as you know, I had shared before, they had been coming to my gate. And ma'am, morning, and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I did the court action. I did, the command to appear, the court action. I had already liened them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a couple of weeks ago now, I suppose. Anyway, they came along, and I saw the vehicle drive by.
Mm-hmm.
And my spirit sort of said, But I carried on with what I was doing. Next thing I know, there's one of the policy enforcers at the store now. I carried on with what I was doing. Next thing, and there were 4 other people. The man who stole it is, of course, and 3 other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman then says, "Ma'am, morning." So I knew she's not talking to me.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? I'm like, nah. So I carried on with what I'm doing. She then said, and she's not responding or talking to any of the other people. She then said, hear me say morning. One young man said something, and I said, I'm not in mourning.
Ooh.
Next thing, she is repeating again and getting kind of aggressive. So immediately I was like, oh my gosh, my script.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have it all down, but I immediately, I stepped and I stood and I said, I took a deep breath. And I said, all rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. And I did the court action.
Yes.
You could have heard a pin drop in there. The man who stole it tried to burrow himself. Now, they're all Moors. They're sleeping.
Yes.
Tried to burrow himself in the wall. The other man, the woman on the chair just sort of froze. And I continued.
Yes.
Next thing, the woman says to me, the policy enforcer, after she sort of, her mouth is opening and closing, and then she turned to one of the other policy enforcers and said, and then turned back to me, funny that you're not, no United States corporation companies have jurisdiction over you. You are a businesswoman. You have a business. And it was interesting because during COVID, I said, nah, not happening. Nobody's coming in to tell me to put spots on the ground. I'm not doing this.
Yes.
I closed my business.
Yeah.
I sent, this was before my waking up here, but I sent paperwork saying, close it. I'm no longer operating.
Islam.
But it was interesting when she said that, and immediately I thought about the clear, specific terminations of corporate contracts. Because there was a business, there was a business name, a business number there, a sign, and all of the other things. But it was just such an interesting experience. I was very proud of myself because I did.
You should be. I'm beaming over here. You know that.
I was like,
look at our Empress.
Come scripts. There were a few bits I did when afterwards when I got home. But anyway, it was enough to shut them down because two of them were behind me, had gone in behind me, and she was in front, and the other Moors were terrified.
Yes.
They were terrified. The man who stole, he said to me, after they had to take their leave, he said to me, but they said you have a business. They said you have a business. I mean, like he was like, you must go do something. And anyway, I walked home. As I was walking home, they passed me on the road.
Yeah.
Do you know what they did? They slowed and laughed. I just swung my little ass and carried on walking by. I have been head down on the specific termination of corporate contracts.
Yes.
I got it finished. I mean, I know there are more, but I just just
start there, Empress. Just
that's it.
Yeah.
But it was just that whole idea that it proved to me they know who they are.
Yes.
They know who I am. They know who they are. They know, because what they're trying to do, as I had stated in my test, was supposed to have, had I failed, I'd be drooling in a corner somewhere, Yes. And they're trying to draw me out. They're dead.
So
they're there, and I didn't get irate or anything like that. I just literally felt my feet and spoke my knowledge. That's
they cannot move past that. They can't move past that.
And it's clear, and it was very clear. One of the things I said was there were 4 witnesses. Yes, they're sleeping, but let me tell you, they left there with something like how the young man said, wow.
Yes.
The power. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I said, you need to take a leaf out of my book. And I was sharing what I know enough and who they are and that. I said, because had they had authority, they would have twisted my arm up behind me and dragged me out there by my hair.
They would have, but they knew they did not have.
They could not. and they did not. And so, yeah, I mean, I realized what I left there with was you saying everything is the ancestors prompting us to do something we must do. We haven't done, we've forgotten, or you get what I'm saying? And it was
yes,
so clear. And I had no shaking. Like when they had come to my gate and were doing all of that sort of thing, yeah, you know, it shook me. I didn't have a clue what they were up to. But this one, and it was right in they were in my face. And I was not in my own domicile. You know, I wasn't in my own space. But anyway, I yield now. But I wanted to share that.
Empress, okay, so may I assist with what's really being drawn out?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you. So the documentation that you opened your business with, it's time to look at that documentation, recreate it, and open back up under your own authority.
Oh my gosh, you just gave me total goosebumps because, listen, when I shut it down, and my contact was still living at that point, and I said, I am not doing business again. So I must have known when I shut it down. I had the knowledge. My first class was 2021. So when I said, I'm coming back. I'm not reopening until I'm under my flag.
Yes.
You know, and I didn't. It's like, oh my gosh, I am living yesterday and today, and it's all just coming together.
Yes.
So that piece. So even that, and I was just looking at it today because I was putting all these in the document.
Yes.
Put it on the letterhead.
Yes.
Same information, but I would be, you know, because it's signed by the titles or somebody. These are all me then.
Yes.
So, for instance,
because you're the creditor. And all of the ones that were signing that stuff before are bankrupt. They cannot contract.
They cannot contract, and would I need to also, I have done a lien on the company's office. I had done that. Would I need to then also do that fiduciary resignation letter, all of that?
Yes. And just so you're aware, I thought about you the other day with regard to the fiduciary resignation things, because the one that was previously doing business as Prime Minister of Jamaica Territory got his walking papers. I saw him get his walking papers from the custodian doing business, the custodian previously in the office of King Charles.
Really?
I saw it with my own eye. They did a video, and they had people coming in. They would stand at the door and he would say, "Come in," and they would sit down. He gave Justin Trudeau his walking papers also. Again, they're done. They're done.
I mean, I've always wanted to watch his. Marcus Garvey said certain heads are gonna roll. Okay.
Yeah, his was fine.
I'd like to be the one that I did head off.
You did. That's what I'm saying. The only way you did that. The only way that they could get walking papers is if the Moors stand, because someone has to govern.
Wow.
And see, we don't realize how powerful we are, but the first document that we send out, heads start rolling. The nationality documents cause folks to line up to the guillotine.
You know, you're so right, and that also sets off the testing, because
yes, it does.
Yes,
it's like, okay, we see the government. Is the government ready to govern? Let's test and see.
Yeah.
Now you've proven that you're ready. You're fit to govern. You're ready to govern. Now, just start governing by opening your business back up under your own sovereign authority. And here's the thing, Empress, those certificates and whatever it is that they were issuing that people put up on the wall in their business, you can create one that looks similar to the one that they created, Make one look similar and just put your flag in the corner.
Yeah.
Make it look similar. Put your flag and also put the backwards, whatever flag they were using to do that.
Okay. Now I need to, and that I'm working on that now. I had only leaned companies. I'm now going to lean the business name, the numbers, all the different things that are attached to it. Just like the Empress before, who said, "I don't like to leave any doors open." Well, that's what I shall do.
Yes.
Wow, this is.
And open your business, Empress.
No, I know. I mean, really, you know what? In truth, everything, the test that I have been through, it has, everything. So I'm feeling you've also affirmed it's time. And
see, you're going to be the example for the others there who want to find out how to get away from that, because they nearly poop their pants every time they see a policy enforcer because they're so scared. And they need to know that they don't need to be afraid of that the same way you're not.
And that's the truth. And I said that to them. And I know, and I was actually grateful for the 4 of them being there, because, I mean, they were terrified.
Yes, I've seen that too.
Good.
Where when we do that, people are looking like, how do you do that?
I know that some of them were like, they said she's crazy because they said I'm, and then they're like, but no, if she were crazy, she would be broke up on the ground now.
Cuffed up still. They cuff up crazy people, so that's not it.
She ain't crazy, maybe. And that was the thing I was really like, they have gone home.
Yes.
And they have spoken it. They have thought it. They are racking it, and they know where to find me. I know I still have things to put in place, paperwork-wise. I still have to get all the documents.
You'll do it, Empress. You'll do it. You will do it. You will do it. And this is my suggestion. This is the way I would do it if I had a business there and I wanted to open my business back up under my own authority, which we know we can because we're the government. I would do the business documentation and the first 6 steps of nationality documents, and then I would take that and hand it out to the other businesses there and say, this is what I did so that my business is under my own sovereign authority. That's how I would do it. I would just make at least 1 or 2 other copies to give to 1 or 2, and they will pass it among each other.
Right.
They will do that.
I will do that. I could actually also put it on the page.
Yes.
That is I haven't done anything with it recently, but that can be part of the opening back up.
Yes.
Also.
Yes. Indeed. And
I was. This is a deadline I had put on myself, because recognizing that the new fiscal year begins October 1st.
Yes.
And I was and I'm still, I still have some things I wanted to get certain things set.
Yeah.
Prior to that. Yeah. So it's all good. It's all wonderful. It's all
You got this, Empress. You got it. You got this, and you can help everybody around you.
Yeah.
Because the fear has to go. And we're the remedy. We're the key to the fear on our land. This is our land. We should not be walking around on our land scared.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Shouldn't. We really should not. And that was one of my first questions to the ancestors is, how do we get past that type of stuff? Because I was scared.
Yeah.
And the ancestors said, okay, we're going to put your behind in the fire. And you're going to see how powerful you are.
It's so interesting, that whole thing.
Yeah.
I grew up in England. The forces are a different kettle of fish over there. They're more like your neighborhood, or they were. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my sons were born in America, in
Oregon. Islam.
And, there's that thing that black people do, and I'm using my inverted commas here.
Yeah.
When our young men hit a certain age, they're given the talk.
Yes.
And, you're not supposed to do this, that, and the other. And I said, I absolutely refuse to give
that talk.
Any talk.
Yes.
Tell them they must submit themselves to. I said, listen to me. I will identify the body if it comes to that. But I will never give my sons that talk. That was, and people thought I was, a little savage and sort of, whoa. But it's just something I've always had. Why should I submit?
Yeah.
When it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense on any level. And to be in fear, you've already lost then if you succumb to the fear. Because it's not that I'm not afraid sometimes. But, you roll it around, and when you realize it makes no sense,
Islam.
Put down, head up, and go forward,
Yeah.
Anyway, I yield. Thank you.
Islam. Listen, it's a wrap. And all of that, folks walking around with billy clubs and badges and stuff and don't have no authority, that's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Islam, Empress Light.
Islam, nobility.
Yes, Empress Light. I got a couple of things I need to ask you about. I lean property management here in San Francisco.
You leaned who? You leaned who?
I lean property management.
Oh.
Property management, yes. I'm in the library. I'm trying not to talk too loud, but I know you need to hear me.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering why you're calling them property management.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just trying to tell you.
No, you can't just say on this call.
I know they're not. I know they're not. They're custodians. I realize it. But, okay. I summoned them to court. They failed to appear. Another more myself. I issued a judicial lien, placed a judicial lien against 5 of their properties, and issued a death certificate. Then put them on notice, gave them copies of it, mailed it all to them. Okay, and I started working on a writ of execution. And in the
have you
the
spoken to them on the phone?
No, I've just been giving them documents, dropping them off to them.
Okay, but you haven't spoken to them in person either?
No, we haven't talked since I moved in there.
Okay.
A couple of times when I emailed them about unlawful entries, and they never responded. So I just started writing affidavits of unlawful entries. That's when then I leaned them because they never responded to it. Oh, and they never rebutted my affidavit, so that stands as law.
Okay, let me just ask you, when you first moved in, first of all, how long has it been since you moved in?
It's getting close to a year. I think it was last November
when
I moved in.
And when you first moved in, did you move in under, with a contract, or how did that?
Well, yeah. I ended up signing the contract, but I signed in lowercase red letters.
Okay. Continue.
Okay. Mm-hmm. They had me in a jam.
No.
And, it's just,
you felt like you were in a jam, but you weren't really.
Well, yeah, okay. But anyway, so now I started working on the writ of execution, and in the death certificate, I put them on notice. I told them I did it just like you did when you was constructing yours, okay? And I told them that when the sheriff gets a copy of what they've gotten, then he'll be able to move forward and with the writ of execution, okay?
You told them. You told them that. You told them.
I told them that.
That when the sheriff gets a copy of the writ of execution, okay.
Yeah, he'll move forward.
Okay.
Okay. And where am I at here?
Thank you for your
honesty. Now, yes, and I gave copies of the death certificate. What else?
Let me ask you, when you first moved in and you signed the contract, did you give them fiat?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
But since then, I've issued them the lottery.
Okay, Islam. Did you issue a receipt and a new?
No.
You know, did you look at the contract and then recreate the contract and then call it a trustee fiduciary receipt? Okay.
I haven't done that yet. I've laid them and put them on notice. They defaulted. Summoned them to court. They defaulted. And I told them that they defaulted, and I put together, I drew up a document that says that, per UCC, affidavit stands as law, and gave that all to them with the resignation letter. They know they defaulted. They didn't rebut my affidavits, okay, and sent them, added all that stuff up, plus APR rate at 10%, and deducted my rent, deducted my bills, whatever they're charging me for, deducted from, and gave them.
Those are not your bills. Those are not your bills. Those are not yours.
Exactly. Okay. And took a copy of it to the recorder's office, took a copy of it to the mayor's office, and dropped it off. Now the mayor and
the mayor and the recorder, you took it to them?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Like a deposit, put it on the counter, gave it to the reception in the mayor's office, because they got a security there in like a suit, and got a reception there. You don't walk right into the mayor's office. So I took it, so-called mayor, custodian of office.
Just a minute, I'm gonna let y'all answer. I'm gonna let you all respond to this. And then I'll respond after the Moors who are hearing what he's saying. I want you all to assist as well. Islam, go ahead, nobility.
Islam. So and then I checked to see if they have been recording my documents at the mayor's and the recorder's office. They haven't been recording them. I know they're a corporation, they're not a government, they're criminals, okay, posing as a government. So I'm wondering if I should continue to give them the alarm, because they don't have enough. If they were to record and charge me the recording fee, that I only gave the mayor and the recorder $100 delarium apiece. The sheriff, I gave him $5,000, because I know his fees was going to run a little bit more, because I was going to use him to put some people out. I put that against.
I know y'all ready to get at it more. Just hold on a minute. Let me finish.
Let me put all this out.
And I know Justice Sharif, and he and I we've talked previously, and that's why I'm laughing, because he gets what he gets it. He gets. Go ahead, nobility.
So they're not recording the documents, but I know they're criminals, and we're the real government. So I wasn't sure about that. Okay, but the sheriff, he's got like $5,000 delarium, and the legal counsel for the sheriff's department is on.
No, go ahead. Let him finish. Let Justice Sharif finish, please.
I know the sheriff is communicating. I know they have my documents, and everybody's got them documents, but I know the sheriff is kind of like they communicating with me. The legal counsel for the sheriff's department, she asked me, well, your correspondence is not clear, and then I wrote back and responded to her, told her that it's not a correspondence, it's a command and an order. We're the Moors, okay? And I said a bunch of other stuff to her too, but they haven't said anything else about it. And I told them that it can be no eviction going forward with Moser companies, the property management, because they have Moorish Solarium, my money, and they've had it for over a year, and they haven't said anything. I haven't gave them any fiat for this would be like the third month, okay? I haven't gave them any fiat.
Mm-hmm.
So where I'm at now is I'm wondering if I should continue to give them more delarium at the recorder in the mayor's office, and I'm not sure about what I should instruct the sheriff to confiscate from Moser.
Okay,
so turning over, titles or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
okay. So first, let me hear from Empress Angel, then Empress Shasha, and then there was a noble who wanted to assist with this, and we're assisting, Morris. We're not going to jump down anybody's throat. We're just going to assist, okay? Islam.
So, my assistance is, first and foremost, you must always be competent and know that those are your offices. So when you state that I spoke to the mayor, you spoke to yourself. When you say you spoke to the sheriff, you spoke to yourself. When you say you spoke to anybody, you're speaking to yourself. I had said this to some brethren not too long ago about when you are putting offices on notice and you're considering where you're sending your notices to, come with the understanding of saying, okay, to what spoke in this wheel has to be put on notice for this wheel to turn, because I'm turning it, but which office needs to be put on notice so that I am commanding to spin. So you say, I need my office of the mayor to be in this cogwheel. I need my office of the sheriff to be in, and so those are the places you send those notices to. And then you know that you're commanding those cogs in that wheel to continue to spin at your authority because they are you. So then furthermore, congratulations for, having them, those offices that you are commanding, you've done that work and now you have that command. Congratulations. That's actually what we're working on over here as well, Islam. So, and the DeLorean is accepted because it's the value that you set it for, and you've already put it in your jurisdiction, so it just is what it is. The DeLorean is accepted because you accepted it, period. And then, furthermore, to move forward, continue to send the DeLorean to your office and continue to demonstrate, like Lay had stated, rewrite those that agreement that you did, rewrite it.
Right.
The receipt, rewrite the receipt and do your bookkeeping. Be your own accountant. Account for your estate.
Islam. And when I write them and when I address them, I don't call them mayors. I don't call them titles of office. I call them custodians of office, DBA, as. Blah,
and
blah, blah.
And they're not even doing business as. They're not doing business. We terminated their business. They're just custodians.
Don't do that.
They're just custodians in your office.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because every time you said that, I just wanted to just jump up and run and just bang on things and just every time you gave them a title, I was just like, okay.
Well, that was just going back and forth between you and I. However,
no,
I don't call
and please don't do that because that makes me very uncomfortable.
Okay.
When you give them a title, it's something in my spirit just says don't do that.
Okay.
Yes, Islam, because this is a record on record. This is something that's going in remembrance in the ether. So you're casting your spells at this point in time and at all points in time as you speak. So you have to be cognizant and mindful of the things you say and the way you say them. Forever and ashe.
Yes, even in the most casual of conversations, do not give them a title because the universe can still hear.
Islam.
Is there anyone else who wanted to add to that?
Gratitudes. I have a question. This is Nabi. So is that true as far as putting custodian on the lien as well versus DBA?
No, on the liens you put the name, doing business as, and then if they're pretending to be a CEO or whatever, you put that in all capital letters. Gotcha. See, before you lien them, they're corpses, and then when they become custodians, then they're just the name, and they're a custodian or a former custodian previously in the office of whatever office that it is that you have assumed. And it's really not an assumption. We are who we are. We don't have to assume an office. We are those offices, period. Every office out there, everyone, I don't care what the title is. Islam, nobility.
What about judiciary?
Yes, I gave them when I gave them the death certificate, I assumed fiduciary, CEO, and CFO, and medical examiner.
And also property manager and banker and justice and judge also, and mayor and all. You took all of those, so you can't give it back to, and sheriff too. See, there's a custodian who's waiting for you to give them some instructions, but if you call them a sheriff, they're going to act like a sheriff against you because I don't call them by the I don't call them titles. Okay. And I would just assume, you can't do it on the public. It's not a good. Don't do it ever.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Ever.
Anybody else?
Anybody else want to show some love to Empress to Justice Sharif?
Islam,
Empress.
Micah, I will just listening to you, and again, I will congratulate you because you're doing wonderful governing, and I completely understand that whole idea of I know it and I'm just saying it, but we cannot say it. I mean, even me sitting here, it's like it takes your head off a piece. I mean, it takes the body apart. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I know in my spirit, I just feel like you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? But you're sort of short-circuiting by saying, I know I didn't do that, but I'm just, and it just, again, it just creates chaos or confusion because in my being, I know because you're doing, but yet that sound, and because the sound is the word, that's the spell, and that's what's being cast. So I feel like you're actually unraveling. You've just knitted or crocheted this beautiful, wonderful thing.
Demonstration.
And by uttering the wrong thing, even as you know, you're unraveling it. You're pulling it apart.
Yes.
And so I know it made me, discombobulated, and yet at the same time, I absolutely know you're doing your work. You're governing, and I hope to be in that space as far along as you at some point. So I'm inspired, I'm motivated, and I thank you for sharing and being yourself because it is what it is.
Yeah. Thank you for expressing on the public record because it takes guts to do that too. To expose your vulnerabilities in front of everyone. I do it all the time because I'm comfortable doing it, but I'm just, it's an honor. It is an absolute honor.
It is. Islam. May I ask a question? With regards, so I understand when we are leaning them, and everybody's already been leaned. I understand that, but when I lean them and they are doing business as. So when now I come to doing, because they've been leaned now, when I come to doing, for instance, the command to appear and those, are they still, because at that point they've been leaned, so are they custodians at this point? Or do I still, so I can actually use the term custodian on the command?
No, you want to go ahead and finish that whole part about them pretending to be corpses. You want to finish that.
Okay.
And then say, okay, this is finished, so now you all are custodians.
So anything I do now beyond that with all of those who've had
the
arrest command and is now, I refer to them as the custodian formerly in the office of or
Yes.
Correct.
Formerly in the office of president, mayor, CEO, property manager, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. That's just clarified that so clearly. Thank you.
Yes, Islam.
Could I ask one other question?
Sure.
Yes.
Wait, just one moment, Justice Sharif. There's a noble who has been trying to say something now for a minute or two. Go ahead, nobility.
Islam, this is Jonas Bay.
They spoke everything that I wanted to say. Oh.
Okay, thank you. And Justice Tonis was going to say something also. Just Tonis, go ahead.
I was just going to point out that Justice Bay, Sheriff Bay has been kicking butt. You guys have been hearing. I've been watching him and encouraging and learning. Also, he didn't tell you about a letter he got from them that basically had the property taxes. It looks like they're trying to get him to pay the property taxes on the building or something.
You know what? They know he owns the building. He sent the proper command. Now he has to remove the taxes from the building. He has to do that because he is actually the tax assessor.
Okay. So what I do, recreate that paper that they sent me about the taxes and send it back to them as paid?
As a receipt. Call it a trustee fiduciary receipt and say that this is paid and accepted for value. Bam.
Exactly. Okay.
Listen, none of that stuff is an accident.
No,
none of that's an accident.
The paper that they sent me, they the way that they spoke about it, they say it's going to increase in your rent, okay, a certain amount of dollars. But then they start talking about tax money, the property increased in value. You know, they told me a bunch of stuff that they really wouldn't necessarily tell me just for a rent increase. They said there's some different terms, some changes in the terms of the contract.
Okay, so do you accept that for value? Do you accept their payment?
Yes, I do.
Islam.
Absolutely.
So be it.
So be it. Okay. One other question.
Islam.
Empress, I'm not sure. I'm working on it. I've already constructed the writ of execution and filled in most of it. But when it comes now, I'm down to the last part, the sheriff's instructions, and I'm not quite sure what to ask him for in terms of telling him.
If you call him a sheriff, if you call him a sheriff
okay,
one more time,
I mean custodian of sheriff.
I'm gonna boot you out this meeting. Justice Sharif.
Okay, excuse me, but I'm not quite sure of what to put in the custodian office sheriff. In the office of sheriffs. Okay, I'm not quite sure of what to tell him to get from them in terms of, I know I can tell them to get keys and things that they, but I mean like titles of ownership.
No, you create all of that. You create all titles of ownership and all of that. That you create that because they don't have it. So you would be essentially telling him to get something that he knows he cannot produce. And when you say things like that, he will know. Okay, he still don't know he the sheriff.
I don't. Right. Okay.
All you do is produce that and publish it. Period.
Okay.
And it's done.
Okay. Can you repeat that? You said to
just produce it. Create title to the place.
Okay.
And they know you have the title to the place already because they're sending tax information. They're saying, landlord, how do we take care of this tax? Do you accept this tax payment?
Okay. Well, I welcome any support or help with this from any of the Moors.
Yeah, receipt.
Okay.
And nobility, you know how to do a receipt.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Islam.
Okay. Islam.
I put something on the screen. You're welcome, Nobility. You know, we right here.
Yeah.
Right here. Islam. So, and that's what all the Moors. We won. We are one. Thank you, Moors, who assisted with that as well. Islam. We are all in assistance of our brother, and we're going to be that for each other all the time. I put something on the screen. The definition in Black's Law 4th edition, which is a little bit hypothecated, by the way, because we need to write it. But I put the word utter because Empress Shasha used the word utter to express when we're saying things. Let me tell you what we're doing when we utter a word. We are actually sending it forth into circulation to publish or put forth, to utter or publish an instrument by words or actions stating that it is good. That is what he's doing with Delarium for going on 3 months. He's saying that's good money, and he's uttering it properly. Now, whenever they say utter, they talk about counterfeit because they already know counterfeit. If you separate those words, that means that someone has fit something that is counter to that which is. And they're the only counterfeiters because you cannot call something counterfeit when it's original. An original cannot be counterfeit. Only fakes and duplicates and all of that can be counterfeit. And not even a duplicate, just something created by someone who doesn't have the authority to create it. That's a counterfeit. And so, did you know that the words forgery and counterfeit were not even words before the 1800s? Those were not even in the dictionary before the 1800s. And that's how we know this dictionary here is hypothecated somewhat. It says here, uttering or publishing a check consists in presenting it for payment, and the act is then done although no money may be obtained. It says it right here. Right there. Utter. Uttering or publishing. To utter something is to publish it. And when you utter a payment, it's publishing a payment. When you write your documents and you send Delarium, or you write your documents and you call it a trustee fiduciary receipt, that's publishing payment. And here they're talking about a check, but they can't talk about receipts, uttering or publishing a receipt. We can talk about that. Look here at the adjective though, right here beneath that, at the bottom of the screen, right here. Utter, that means entire, complete, absolute, and total. And there's the res judicata and stare decisis right there. Bell versus Commonwealth. Entire, complete, absolute, and total. That means when you say it, that settles it.
It is.
And we say that, and then we because we're the law, we put it in writing. We put it in writing, and then it, of course, it's the law. And that is the power of what we're doing right now. Every Moor who speaks out on these calls is sending forth the word into circulation. That means that this is not the last time people are going to say it. They're going to say, Empress Shasha said this on this day because it's circulating. They're going to say, Justice Sharif said this on this day. Look, that's circulation. Okay?
Islam, it's recording as well.
It is recording as well. And then here they say to offer. And we already know we don't have to offer anything. We just accept. And that's why I said that these are a little bit hypothecated, but we have the authority to change it and make it say what we want it to say, because the real initial intention of this word utter is to send into circulation and call it good, and it's good. Call it good, and it's good. Utter and publish an instrument, directly or indirectly, and declare or assert by words and actions that it is good. And it doesn't say that it's not acceptable, it says it's good. So, Empress Shasha, thank you for uttering that word, because it kind of brought forth that.
You're welcome, Islam.
Yes, Islam, Islam, Islam. Moors, listen, you're the law, period. Period. You're the government, you're the police, you're the mayors, the sheriffs, and all of that. And I'm actually looking at, we had spoken about governments and governing and the governors of the states. We actually have to proclaim our status as governors of our states as well. And all Moors can do that. There's no, every Moor in every state should be saying, I'm the governor. Because I already showed you in the past where they had almost 2 million foreigners claiming to be governors at the state of Washington Corporation. I showed you that. It's on the quote-unquote record at the quote-unquote Secretary of State's office. So in other words, it's all fictitious. We're just saying, look at this. So I'm not the only governor at Washington. All Moors are. And the same thing goes for all the other territories as well. So that if one governor decides to go on vacation for a month, that the land is still governed. Islam. And then if we all go on vacation over here, then the governors from East govern over here. And if the Moors over there go on vacation because they want to go see the North Pole, then the Moors over here automatically assume. So we govern together. That way no land is uncovered and ungoverned. We all govern together. And that means there's no reason for us to go back and forth in war and be trying to muscle each other out. And all. We don't have to do any of that. The land is so big and it's increasing every day. It's increasing every day with every earthquake and volcano. And that's why when earthquakes and volcanoes happen, we should just rejoice. Not that we rejoice in loss of life or anything like that, but if there's no loss of life, and even if there is, there's still a part of us that rejoices because the estate just grew. And then we say we honor the lives, and we hope that no one is lost in all that's happening. But if you'll notice, there's a lot going on with the weather in other places. Is there anyone on this call that is in a territory that's been flooded? And I'm gonna take a guess and say no. But is there anyone who has been flooded out on this call?
Islam, there have been some areas that have flooded recently. Not right where I am, but there have been, but it's not an unusual thing necessarily. But there have definitely been some areas in there was a storm, I forget now which one it was, that was threatening us, and then it supposedly moved on, but there were a lot of heavy rains for a few days, and some places did flood out.
Well, Empress, when that happens again, all you need to do is redirect that. Just redirect it. Redirect it or stop it.
Right.
We absolutely have that authority.
Yes, we do.
Here we've been saying, okay, it's going to be it's going to be sunny and it's going to be anywhere between 70 and 85 degrees. And here it is going into October and still 70 to 85 degrees every day. Because that's what we like at Morocco. We govern that. You know.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that stuff that's going on is geared towards redirecting anything that was previously claiming to be corporate. It's shutting all of that down.
That is my feeling.
You knew that, Empress. You knew. Yes, we know.
Yes, that's definitely the feeling. That it's
Islam, Empress?
Yes, Islam.
You asking about the flooding somewhere.
Yeah.
In Florida, we just had a hurricane come through.
Mhm.
And it devastated Tampa, further up north that way. It missed me in Fort Lauderdale, but
of course it did.
That's
what we're saying. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is designed to go ahead and just put that last nail in.
Oh, okay.
They can't pay for anything. They don't have any funds or anything for any of that. And so, again, that's going to continue to, clear a path,
Okay, Islam.
Yeah. And who would think that something that we have been led to believe is supposed to be devastating would actually be assisting? Who knew?
Yeah,
But when you look under all of the lakes around here, around where you are, Lake Michigan and Lake Huron, Lake Superior, and all of that, you'll see where when the change happened previously, it worked in the favor of the foreigners. All of our cities are under there. Let's just not all, but many of our cities are under the lakes. And now that the lakes have dried up in corporate territory, that's corporate is not really even a thing for us. The real land is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Islam.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna state that I was talking to my consort just now, and I was like, I've always said I do not co-sign or accept the weather of inclement weather of like any kind, whether it's snow, ice, cold weather, and then I just went further and said that's a debt, because we're supposed to have sun and warm weather that breeds fruit and harvest and vegetation, and cold weather is something that puts things in hibernation, and so when you break down that word hibernation, that's a nation is going in hiding, and we're not supposed to be, and so it's a debt.
Mm-hmm.
So like you keep stating that when we keep doing our demonstrations, we're going to change the weather. Yes, because we're the creditors, and we need to always have our climate always reflect our credit and not debt, because the more that I think about it and meditate on it, cold weather is really a debt. It's a tax, unnecessary tax. It's like war, because when war is, it's people do that for profit. And then when you think about everything you need to combat that nastiness of weather, you need boots, you need shovels, you need things to put down for the ice, and all these different things, snow tires, and all this stuff. And that's a tax, that's a debt on people, and then they're not outside, they're not getting the sun that they need, and all those different things. So that's a real debt and a tax on the people. People go into, they go into depression, some people, because they're not getting the adequate sun that they need.
Mm-hmm. Islam.
And I was talking to a brother who's very astute, as we all should be, as we open up our first eye. But he's more into that, studying further along. He said there's supposed to be only 3 seasons, because the 3 represents the 3 sides of the pyramid. And so, so we're supposed to have 3 seasons: summer, spring, and fall.
We have the right to state however we want to state it. Moors, are you seeing in the chat where Moors are wanting to connect? So they're putting their territories in the chat. And so for Moors who are at this meeting, please feel free to connect with one another, with the Moors that are in the chat, so that you can demonstrate even more so where government is concerned. And I will say this, Moors, as we continue to access our vast estate where travel is concerned, and we start issuing receipts for travel so that we can come together, we're going to plan a coming together where we all issue receipts and then we come together, okay? And that's going to be sooner rather than later. The way things are going, we might even be able to do it in the next, not too many weeks hence. Okay, so let's just keep going with our demonstrations and issuing receipts, for everything, because it's our time. So with that being said, if there is nothing further at this time from this grand, superior, supreme Congress, Islam, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Islam.
Islam, peace and grand rising.
Peace and grand rising.
Peace
and grand rising.
Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Peace and energy. Peace and energy.
Islam, much love and respect to one and all.
Islam, indeed.
Peace and love.
Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Peace and grand rising. Islam.
Islam.
Grand rising.
Islam.
Islam, peace and grand rising.
Islam.
Islam, grand rising.
Islam, grand rising, nobility.
Thank you, Empress.
You're welcome. Islam. We got you. We right here. We got you.
Much love, much love.
Much love indeed.
Islam, grand rising.
Islam, grand rising, nobility. And we will end the call in 3, 2, 1.